Hi everyone, I'm Heidi. Welcome to your place where being fine is being you. I'm a counsellor, I'm a psychotherapist, and I specialise in working with and supporting young people and young adults. And if that is you, then this is your podcast and a huge warm welcome to you. It's episode 10 and we are all fine, flawed, insecure, nervous and emotional. I aim to work with our flaws, insecurities and anxieties and make those our own rather than something we're dreading or avoiding. Isn't the world such an unpredictable place? Let's just take a look at what's going on around us right now, globally, internationally, locally. There's a real sense of unpredictability everywhere, isn't there? And the young people I work with today, like you, are facing such a range of anxieties, climate change, political instability, and the cost of living being major sources of worry. They also expressed to me in our counselling sessions they're super concerned about their future, their personal safety and the impact of them on social media. Additionally, many young people like you are worried about the effects of violence, discrimination and bullying. And not forgetting economic instability and the long-term effects that I still see weekly in my office of the pandemic. Young adults often face a range of challenges, including finding employment, managing finances. At this time of year, it's exam season, navigating the education system and where you're going to go after your A-levels, your GCSEs or your degree, your career paths, and of course managing that massive vat of mental health issues that I know exist amongst you. Additionally, the transition to adulthood is hugely significant, and along with that, body image concerns, all of those issues around our self-esteem and our self-worth. Without a doubt, these uncertainties contribute to anxiety, depression and overall lower well-being, particularly amongst those from disadvantaged backgrounds. All of the examples I've just shared with you come with a massive feeling of uncertainty. And this podcast is about how you manage those feelings of uncertainty that hit you at every level of your life. Now, living with so much uncertainty is really hard. Human beings crave information about the future in the same way we crave our food, our sex, and our other primary rewards. Our brains perceive that ambiguity as a threat, and they try to protect us by diminishing our ability to focus on anything other than creating the certainty. Resisting this current reality won't help you recover, learn, grow, or feel better. Ironically, this resistance will prolong your pain and your difficulty by amplifying the challenging emotions that you'll be feeling. There is a real truth to the saying that what we resist persists. But there is an alternative to fearing the uncertainty, so let's have a look at that. The inability to tolerate uncertainty is an attitude many people have towards life. When you have this attitude, uncertainty, unpredictability and doubt are seen as awful, catastrophic and unbearable experiences that must be avoided at all costs, don't they? People who hate uncertainty and crave that need and guarantee will say things like this: I can't cope without knowing. And I know the chances of happening are small, but it still could happen. And I need to be 100% sure before I X, Y, and Z. They'll also prefer that. That's something that they're dreading or they're worried about. They want it to happen right now rather than go on any longer, not knowing what the eventual outcome will be. And they'll find it really hard to make a decision or put a plan or solution in place because they first need to know how it's going to work out. The anxiety provoked by this uncertainty has a lot to do with our natural desire for predictability and control. Knowing what's coming next makes us feel secure, doesn't it? But in my practice, there are two ways you can get uncomfortable with uncertainty. And it's these two things. First, you challenge your intolerance of uncertainty. And the second step is you accept the uncertainty. Here's how. Let's start here to challenge the intolerance of the uncertainty and build up a stronger resilience with these feelings of not knowing. Number one, you surrender to transitions. Now, when something changes in your life, you leave a job, you end a relationship, or you lose somebody you love, recognize that now you're in a transition. And transitions take time to move through and they cannot be rushed. It's a physical process, has a start, a middle, and an end. So allowing yourself the knowledge to know you're in the middle somewhere of that transition will give you the resilience you need to manage the uncertainty. The second thing you need to do is prepare for that change in advance. Now, sometimes change, yes, it's unexpected, but other times you're going to see it coming. When you anticipate a big change in your life, say leaving home, going to university, then spend some time exploring your feelings around it. A good way of doing this is you can list all the ways your life will change and identify the ones that are causing you anxiety. Don't just think about what you're losing. We all go down that rabbit hole. Concentrate on what you're going to gain. Every ending has to have a beginning too. So start by thinking, where would yours be? Third thing you need to do is seek out the small uncertainties. So this is type of a gradual exposure. You can build up your tolerance for uncertainty by gradually exposing yourself to it on purpose. Now, this strategy will give you control in a situation where you do not feel any at all. Keep listening to this. Identify your fears and avoidances. What are those specific situations or thoughts that cause anxiety and avoidance related to the uncertainty? Then draw yourself a ladder. It's a bit of a hierarchical approach, really. At the bottom of the ladder is the smallest of those fears or those uncertainties that you may feel you can challenge. Start there first and then end at the top of your ladder with the most anxiety provoking. So maybe your ladder might have 3 or 4 different rungs on it. The bottom rung of the ladder will be the least anxiety provoking uncertainty you're frightened of. And then you progress to the most challenging. Now, by doing this, you've set yourself a task, and then you're going to be gradually exposing yourself to those feared situations. Seeking out those small uncertainties, as I've just suggested, will be part of challenging your negative thought system you have in place. That all uncertainty leads to negative outcome. It absolutely doesn't. By gradually exposing yourself to it, you're going to prove to yourself and to your thinking brain and to the amygdala that causes that anxiety that you can manage. Now you can change the cognitive structure. So when life is hard, we often find ourselves focusing on the why questions. Why is this happening to me? So letting go of the why, flipping it with another 3-lettered word and asking how instead. So not why is this happening to me? How can I change this situation? And the last thing I suggest you do, if you're trying to tolerate the uncertainty, is move past the worry. You may think that worrying is a way of preparing yourself for the worst, getting you ready for anything that might happen. But worrying is seen as a way of attempting to predict life so that there are no nasty surprises. So as such, your worrying reduces your experience of uncertainty and unpredictability. And because worrying reduces your feelings of uncertainty, guess what? You'll continue to worry, worry, and worry. In other words, let me break that down. You keep worrying because you believe it's your only strategy for making things in life more certain and more predictable, and that it helps you have more control. Sorry, my friends, that is absolute nonsense. In reality, your worry just makes things more uncertain and more unpredictable. By worrying, if that's what you do, think of it this way. Does it really change the outcome of what will happen? I bet you life is still as uncertain and still unpredictable as it ever was. It is only your perception that you somehow have more control by worrying. But is it really true? In fact, all you've done is think of all of the worst case scenarios and worked yourself up and made yourself feel really, really bad in the process. So ask yourself, is that worry really worth it? No, it's not. Now, before we move on to talking about ways to accept the uncertainty that we all face, let's take a little breather for a moment for your therapy thought. Self-compassion is simply giving the same kindness to ourselves that we would give to others. Unlike self-criticism, which asks if you're good enough, self-compassion asks what's good for you. So if you have been criticizing yourself for years, ask yourself, in what way has that helped you? Has it been supportive, beneficial to your mental well-being anyway? I guess not. So try approving of yourself and see what happens instead. Store that thought about self-compassion, as you'll need that soon as we take a look at how you can become more accepting of life and the fact that it's always going to be uncertain. And that was your therapy thought. Instead of resisting uncertainty, we can practice acceptance. Kristin Neff, she's a fantastic researcher and an advocate and probably a pioneer in self-compassion, along with her colleagues, have shown that acceptance, particularly self-acceptance, is a counterintuitive secret to happiness. Acceptance is about meeting life where it is and moving forward from there. Now we're looking at the second part here of how we can deal with that uncertainty, and that's acceptance. So accepting feelings of uncertainty, yes, it's difficult. I totally get you, but it's an essential emotional skill. And here's a grounded approach to help you work through it. Start by acknowledging the uncertainty. Avoid pushing it away or pretending it's not there. Rather say to yourself, okay, I'm feeling uncertain, and that's fine. Labeling your feelings can reduce their emotional power. You need to understand that uncertainty is normal. Most people, the majority of us, your friends, your family, all live with some degree of uncertainty. Of course we do, whether it's about relationships, our health, our career, or our future. You're not alone in this experience. Practice staying present. Uncertainty always leads to overthinking about the future and ruminating. So redirect your attention, grab it from the future and bring it back into the moment using mindfulness or grounded techniques. You know I say this to you, I say it on my TikToks and I say it on my podcasts and everywhere else you can find me on social media. The quickest way to getting back into the present, reducing any anxiety sensations, is focusing on the breath and anchoring it into the moment. Breathing in for 4 and always making sure the exhale is the longer part of that deep breathing grounding technique. And try naming the 5 things you can see, the 4 things you can touch, the 3 things you can hear, the 2 things you can smell, and the 1 thing you're grateful for in those moments. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you're back in the moment. Challenge the need for control. Ask yourself, what am I trying to control right now? And then this great response, can I actually control it? If not, try to let it go. Often control is an illusion. Setting small, manageable goals. When the bigger picture feels overwhelming, break things down. What's one small action you can take today? What is the one thing about this I can do today? Progress, even in tiny, tiny steps, helps anchor you and builds that self-confidence. And do me a bit of a favour, limit your exposure to those anxiety triggers. If reading the news or doom scrolling or social media adds to your anxiety in any way, shape or form, give yourself permission to unplug or set the boundaries, and definitely start setting screen time limits when you're scrolling on TikTok or anything else like that. Allow yourself 15 minutes of brain draining or brain informing, whatever you're looking at will do one thing or the other. But setting limits will limit your exposure to any triggers you might have. The last 2 things I'm going to suggest when it comes to accepting there's uncertainty, and life is full of uncertainty. There's only one guarantee, my dears, and that is we're all going to die. As doomsday as that sounds, and as scary, not meaning to frighten you, but that's the only thing I can say with certainty about my own life. So those 2 last things I'm going to suggest you do. Talk about it. Sharing how you feel with someone you trust can help normalise the experience and really lighten the emotional load. And lastly, please accept that this discomfort you're feeling now about the uncertainty is only temporary. Emotions are like waves. They come and go. You don't have to make them disappear. You just have to learn to ride them out. Basically, to get more comfortable with uncertainty, we need to practice psychological flexibility. And the research suggests that people who are more psychological flexible have higher well-being and tend to be less anxious and worried. And everything I've just shared on episode 10 of We Are All Fine will help build a psychological flexibility in your brain and to help you deal much more confidently with a lack of certainty. The fear of the unknown can be a formidable force that hinders personal growth and happiness. Nevertheless, with a determined mindset and the willingness to embrace the uncertainty, you can overcome this fear and open yourself to a world of possibilities. Now remember that life's most rewarding moments often lie beyond what is familiar. And by stepping into the unknown, you are going to discover a stronger, wiser, and more resilient version of yourself. So take a deep breath in, trust in your abilities, and embark on a journey of self-discovery and growth, one I know is enriched by embracing the beauty of the unknown. Thanks for listening to that. So let's end the show with the regular segment I have called Question for a Counsellor. This week's question is this: how can I tell my friend I don't want her in my life anymore? She stresses me out. Gosh, I hear this often in my counselling room. Really normal, but let's just look at the answer. Ending any relationship is hard, but the reality is this: people grow apart, drift and change, and we're not always going to be that good fit we were when we were 10, when we were 20, or when we were 30. And they're not going to be a good fit for us either. Or sometimes your trust might be betrayed, or maybe something was said that can't be taken back. Now, if you're sure you want to end the friendship, this goes for not just the listener who sent the question in, but for all of you, you can approach it in two ways. First, you can be direct, open and honest about why you want to end the connection you have. Or secondly, you fade yourself out gradually. If you choose to talk directly to your friend, choose the right time and place. I'd say that. Be honest, direct, and please be kind. Explain the reasons if this feels appropriate for you. The ending will be important for you both, so be prepared for the feelings you'll have and the reactions you'll have from your friend. They may be hurt, confused, or angry, so be prepared to listen and empathise. And it's okay to acknowledge their feelings, but it's also okay and important, if you've decided this friendship is no longer serving you, to stand your ground, explain why you're looking to end this, and remain true to that decision. And if you're choosing to gradually fade out the relationship, you might find it hard to have a difficult conversation. I appreciate that. Or you can choose to gradually fade out the relationship if you find it a little bit too difficult for yourself to have that direct conversation. Just distance yourself gradually. Maybe don't see each other as much, reduce the frequency of the interactions, turn down invitations, or just generally spending less time together. I'm guessing that might not be the kindest thing to do, but if it's the only thing available to you, just managing that subtly and with kindness is one of the options you've got. However, little red flag, be aware that this can be perceived as passive and can leave your friend feeling confused or hurt. While circumstances surrounding the end of a friendship do vary, it might be helpful to avoid certain ways of handling that friendship breakdown. You might want to not become hostile or aggressive. Maybe don't enlist other friends to help end that relationship for you. And seeking revenge, posting stuff on negative things on social media about them, probably not a great idea, because in my experience of working with young people who've been on the receiving end of that, it can have some really devastating consequences. I hope that helped answer the question. It's not easy. I'm not giving you advice. I'm just gently suggesting some things that you might find useful if you're looking to end any kind of friendship in your lives. As we draw our episode 10 to an end, I hope you have what you need to accept and tolerate the uncertainty that you will all face in your life. And my final comment to you is this: use this mantra daily now, to instill in your brain a tolerance and acceptance of uncertainty. I cannot control what is not in my control. join me for episode 11 next Monday, where I'll be talking through some techniques and tips which I know I get asked about a lot at this time of year, and it's brought into my therapeutic room of dealing with exam stress and that internal pressure that I know you'll be putting on yourself to succeed. There's this horrible balance now between am I failing, am I succeeding, and getting that tipping point right, because as we know, a decent level of stress actually helps whir our engines and give us that motivation we need to sit down and pass that exam. If you've liked what you've heard today, please tell others and share this episode. But if you've loved what you've heard, rate my show and tell me. All your feedback, is welcome, and I love hearing from you all. My email, HeidiWeAreAllFine@gmail.com, is just one button away from reaching out to me. That's HeidiWeAreAllFine@gmail.com. Please email me to get in touch, and don't forget to send in your questions for me to answer on next week's show too. Anything you want me to talk about, let me know and I will create the podcast. Subscribing to my podcast is easy, as is finding me on all your usual social media platforms, TikTok, Insta and Facebook. You know where to go. All your comments on all of those platforms will be read, appreciated and replied to. We are all flawed, insecure, nervous and emotional, but always remember, be yourself. You are no one else. Until next time, you take care. Finally, some important takeaways. The podcast is for informational use only and should never be used as a substitution for professional advice or for personal diagnosis. These opinions are personal to me, and I do not guarantee the accuracy of such opinions or information. I am not intending to create a counselling relationship with you, and you should always consult a qualified mental health professional with any concerns.